you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You guys know what I like to do on my show. Say it with me. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on a fire. And that's what we want to do today. We want to get you fired up about my guest. I'll be spending time today with Katrina Blecher, and we'll be talking about her book, The Angel's Guide to Happiness and Prosperity. So go on and get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, Katrina. Thank you so much for joining me here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Angela.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, as is tradition around here, we always give our guests an opportunity to tell us a little bit about themselves. We know that there may be a few folks out there that are unfamiliar with you or your work. So first question, what makes you you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Certainly. Well, I'm a New Yorker, and I got a degree in economics from Columbia University. And then I went to Wall Street, and I became a top-ranked security analyst. But then I got ill, so I spent about 10 years just in and out of hospitals with about 50 diseases. And it got me working more with my spirit guides and my holistic healers. And then when I got better, I formed Kate's Holistic Healing just over 10 years ago. And we're a group of 12 different healers. And I also write books.
I love it. I love it. Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that this was yet another way for you to share your knowledge base with the world?
Well, I've always been a writer because that was what I had to do in my career, and I love to write. But what I wanted to do is I got so much great information from my spirit guides that I want to leverage it and get it out to the world so other people can get these simple solutions that they offer us, make our lives better.
Absolutely. I can definitely understand that. I think that a lot of people who listen into the show agree that they want to share the information that they have so that we can all become more enlightened and empowered. I have to agree with you there. Now, the title of your book, how did you come about the title? Some folks will say, it came to me in the middle of the night and I kind of wrote the book around the title. Others have said that they had a working title in the beginning, and by the time they were done, the title kind of was a mixture of what the storyline, of what the information was about. How did you come about your title?
Well, originally, my first book was Journey into Knowledge. Then I wrote Journey into Health. So this was going to be Journey into Happiness. But then when I was speaking to my guides, I asked them about that, and they came up, and I asked them about, well, should I call it Angels? And they laughed, and they said, yes, call it Angels, it'll sell more books. So we changed the title to The Angel's Guide to Happiness and Prosperity.
Now, as far as the ideal reader is concerned, I like to ask it this way. Would you say that your book is appropriate for those as young as high school, or do they need to be a little bit older due to just life experience?
No, actually, high school is where they start teaching happiness courses. I mean, they've really taken off in universities in the past 5 years, and now high schools are offering them as well. So, I mean, not younger than high school, but anybody that has an interest in getting to know themselves and their soul, and if they're into meditation, it's a fabulous book.
Now, some of the authors that I've spoken with, Katrina, have said that there was a a prompting, a nudge that they received before writing. Now, I realize that not every author has, divine inspiration to write their book. It is just something that they feel so inclined, like they really just want to share the information that they have received. And, people fall anywhere along that spectrum. So I want to give you an opportunity to share your prompting if you had one. Was there any nudge, any push that you feel that you received that said, now is the time to put this book out to the world?
Yes. That's exactly what happened. After I wrote my first two books, I was going to start a book on fiction. And I had written out the outline, and I did a meditation, and my spirit guides said to me, no, I need to write a book on how people can be happier. And they said they would dictate the book, which is basically, the book was written by my three spirit guides. And so I took them, and I always believe what they say because their advice is always so spot on. And I had them, they came up, we've got like 33 chapters, and they came up with the topics of each of them and what's written in the book. So it was.
Now, when we talk about the actual reading of the book, many times an author will present the information in a way that's really best for the reader, right? I feel that every author takes the time to organize the book, if you will, in a way so that the reader can really get all of the little nuggets, all of the little nook and cranny pieces of information, and we are better having read it. With that being said, is there a best way to read your book? Like, should we start with page 1 or chapter 1 or section 1, or can we pick it up and start anywhere? Does that matter?
Well, a little bit, because the book is laid out. With the book, I also give meditations that are recorded online, and they're about 30 minutes, and you can listen to them, and that's where most of the work happens. But the readers will get a lot out of the first two chapters and the meditation, because that's meeting your spirit guide. But then once you've met your spirit guide, you can jump around to the different chapters to see which one holds the most appeal for you or what you have the most problem with. But the easiest meditation first. Yes.
Yeah, I like how you've put that together, just depending on where you are in your spiritual journey, in your self-development. Start where you need to start, and you'll end up where you need to end up. Just kind of be so led. So I like it. I like it. Now, you talk about angels and you talk about spirit guides. Some people may not be familiar with those terms. I think most people have heard the word angel used in some sense, but surprisingly enough, we even have some misconceptions about angels thanks to TV. We all think of angels as just little cherubs, kind of running around, but angels are a mighty, mighty force and don't always look the way that Hollywood portrays them. But then there's spirit guides. Some people are familiar with that term and others are not. Can you tell us a little bit about how you address those two entities, the angels and spirit guides, in your book?
Certainly. Well, I believe they're mostly spirit guides, but I asked them what was the difference between an angel and a spirit guide. And they said, they're just words, and they differ in every language, and they're really not important. What's important is that these entities, these beings, are the souls in our circle that we travel with through time. And when we're having an experience on Earth like we are now, our spirit guides, the people in our circle, our angels, are watching over us, keeping us from harm, and loving us intensely. And when we ask them questions, they give us answers. And it's wonderful. And some people might take these answers like a instinct or a gut feel or a premonition. But no, that's your angels, that's your spirit guides talking to you.
Oh, I like that answer. Thank you so much for that. Now, with that being said, and you kind of answered it, but I want to give you a little bit more time if you need it. And that is, does everyone have angels round about them, or does everyone have the experience of having spirit guides with them? And if they do, are we able to tell when they are around us? Do you address that in the book?
Yes. Well, the spirit guides are always there. They're in a different dimension, higher dimension, and they are, everybody has them. Most people don't talk to them because really the best way to talk to them is in trance. But prayer is a form of trance, so that works beautifully as well. And people can get to know their guides. They probably have, they say we have like 3 to 7 people in our core circle, our angels and us. And these are the people we travel with. But it's not a group of 20 because that's just too many to have a close relationship with. And in this life, you might find someone who's in your circle also having a life experience. And when you meet them, they'll seem so familiar and so loving. And you just have a wonderful relationship with them for the rest of your life. But not many people are lucky enough to meet one of their guides in this life.
Yes, I have to agree with you there. Oh wow, I love it. Now we have about 2 minutes left, and I was like, I have so many questions for you, but I don't want to ask you a question that's going to take us over. So let me kind of double back on something that you said, and you mentioned that there are some meditations in the book as well that we're able to visit with and be able to make that a part of our day-to-day as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about the meditations?
Certainly. Well, if you don't want to buy the book, the meditations are online at kateblecher.com. But the Angel's Guide to Happiness and Prosperity really goes with the meditations. But the meditations are wonderful because they really can change your life. I mean, some of the most important ones are the past life regressions, because then we get to see if we have a negative emotion, if it came from maybe our childhood or a past life, and get to the bottom of it. And then after the meditation, you'll find you no longer have that fear or that sadness. And then we also have meditations on talking to people who have passed over. And it's wonderful because you see them and they're always so happy, and you can ask them any questions. And it changes people's outlook on death. It's no longer frightening, and it's no longer sad when people die, because you know you can always talk to them and you'll see them again as soon as you pass.
I love it, and I'm so glad that you put that reminder out there that it isn't something that we have to be fearful of. I love it. Well, it is time for us to go to break, but before we do, can you please remind everyone, please, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And of course, how do we stay in contact with you?
Certainly. Well, the book is The Angel's Guide to Happiness and Prosperity, complete with recorded online meditations. And you can buy it at Amazon or wherever books are sold. And you can reach me at katesholistichealing.com. And
Hey everyone, now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Discovery. No, just a sec.
What would it look like if we listened more? Could the right voice, the right set of words, bring us all just a little closer, get us to open up, even push us further. It could, if we took the time to listen. The most inspiring minds, the most compelling stories. Download Audible and listen for a change.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. Now, Katrina, before we went to break, we were talking about the wonderful thing that happens to us, and that is that we have our angels, our spirit guides that are always with us. They're helping us. They're getting us from point A to point B, safely and securely. And it just reminds me that, in scripture in Psalm 91, it says that, God has given the angels charge over us to make sure that we are protected and that we are going about our day as safely as we can. And I think sometimes we forget about that. And it is so reassuring to know that we have that, and God even thought about our day to day down to the smallest thing to make sure that we are safe and secure. I love it. I love it. Now, when you get feedback about your book, I am pretty sure that you are getting messages that say, wow, this book has changed my life, or, I read this particular chapter and it was so profound, especially in a time where I think many people are trying to become closer with God. They're trying to have more of a spiritual journey or faith development. What type of feedback are you getting about your book?
Oh, I'm getting wonderful feedback. People are writing to me and they're telling me what messages they get in trance from their angels, and they're just amazed because it wasn't anything that they were expecting, and they just feel so much better. And I'm just, it's really impacting people's lives with mostly the meditations, because people would have had, I've known one person who had a terrible fear, and they told me about past life regression that totally got them over. And they didn't have to take any anxiety medication anymore. I mean, it's really, it's making a big difference in people's lives. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. And that's what the guide said I should write the book to do.
Oh, absolutely. And I know that I'm happy that you followed up on the prompting, that you did exactly what you needed to do. When you mentioned about the regression therapy, there are so many people that are suffering from PTSD, from our first responders to our men and women who serve in the military. But we also forget about the people, just the day-to-day citizen that has experienced a traumatic event, anything from a home invasion to, a horrible car accident, so on and so forth, a death in the family that just did not settle well with them. There are so many ways that people are affected by the things that go on in their lives, and to be able to have such a powerful therapy available to them so that they are able to move forward without the medication is so important. So I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to those therapists that are qualified and certified to do that type of regression therapy. It is definitely a needed tool, and it gives life and freedom back to the people that really need to use that. So I'm so glad that your book is also helping people tap into that. Now, when you were getting your, I like to call them God downloads, when you were getting like your promptings, your information, when angels were speaking to you about which direction to go in, did they give you any particular advice when it comes to, let's say, relationships? Everyone has relationships, and it doesn't have to be just intimate relationships like with a spouse, but just perhaps our best friends or our coworkers even.
Right. Well, they do. They talk a lot about relationships because they're very important to people's happiness. And they talk about, first of all, to focus on the key ones. And you don't have to have 100 friends. But if you have a problem with some, they offer wonderful advice on, for instance, forgiveness and judgment, acceptance, good manners, things that make a major difference in an interpersonal relationship. For example, they have this meditation on forgiveness, and you go into a trance, and after a while you see a beautiful flower with different petals, and the good people in your circle are one color petal, and the problem person is another. And you just have to decide, by looking at the beautiful flower, if you want to keep that other petal attached, this other person in your life, just the way they are, because they're not going to change. They are who they are. Or you can remove the petal and toss it outside your energy circle, and they will no longer have an impact on you. And so it lets you, and then when you come out of it, you realize, okay, I do forgive this person, I want them in my life. Or, well, maybe it's better, it's not going to get resolved, and we should just drift apart. So, and all the information from the guides is so loving and so accurate, so nobody ever has to be afraid of asking questions or what they might say.
Oh, I absolutely love that you mentioned the flower exercise. That is something that I also utilize with my client base. And people think, okay, so you want me to draw a stem and then flowers with petals and, put all of these labels on them and then da-da-da-da-da and walk through all of that. But once they do it, you are so right. They are so excited having experienced the freedom of the choice. Do we keep or do we dispose of? Or is there a way for us to recalibrate, to recenter ourselves in some way, shape, or form so that we're able to see it from a different perspective that gives us a different understanding? That is such an awesome and amazing exercise. So just in case anyone's going to therapy, and they're trying to figure that out, and their therapist tells them, today we're going to play with flowers, know that it really and truly is a positive experience for a lot of people. I love that you have included that. Now, what I like is that you have included so many topics that are wonderful for the average person. Like, everybody needs to know about love and forgiveness and relationships and all of that. There's not like one person who has never had to forgive someone for doing a something or saying a something that could have been a little rude or harsh or unloving or unkind. So I love that it is practical topics that you're talking about, not something so specific that people aren't able to find themselves within the book. I love it. I love it. Now, I want to, if you don't mind, kind of switch gears just a little bit. And my listeners know that one of the largest groups that we have that email me are our aspiring authors. So I'd like to ask you, as an established author, some of the bits and pieces that you do when it comes to writing. So the first question is, how did you feel when you had copy number 1 of this book? I know you've written others, but for this book, how did you feel when you had copy number 1 in your hands? Were you just as excited for this book as you were for the others?
Oh, I was so excited when this book came out, because this is by far the best book. And when I saw it and my editor sent me the first copy, it was amazing, because I've worked on it for many years, and I'm just so proud of it. And again, the feedback has been phenomenal. So, very
I love
happy.
it. Yes, yes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I love that. And thank you for saying that because I think for some folks, they think that, well, you're an established author and it's just book number next. And you might not be as excited for this one as you are for the very first one. And I have to agree with you. I disagree with that. I think you're as excited for each book because each book is a labor of love. So thank you. Thank you for that answer. Now, when it came to the process of writing, I know that many authors have a particular time of day or even a particular location that really kind of helps the writing juices flow, if you will. Did you find that you were a morning person or maybe at the end of the day? Did you need to write when you were at home or did you kind of go to a coffee shop? Did any of that matter for you?
Yes, it did. I would only write it in my office or at home, and because I wanted, my space with my energy around me. And I would write. I would have a session with my hypnotherapist, and she'd ask questions, and I'd ask my guides and get answers, and then she would type them out, and then I would afterwards, usually in the afternoon, I would just go and transpose that all into a chapter. And that's kind of how the book was written. I mean, I really didn't, these are not my words and these are not my feelings or my advice. It's all from the angels. And so it's maybe a little different from some other authors, but I just was, once I came out of trance, once I felt all their love and their energy and their knowledge and their wisdom, then I just wanted to quickly put it on paper and so other people could learn it as well.
Oh, I love that answer. And I think for a lot of people, and I just want to address a word that you're saying there, and because you say while you were in trance, and I know that the word trance for a lot of people is going to be triggering, and you're going to think that it is something other than what it could be. When we are in very intense, purposeful, quiet time prayer, when you are alone with God in that moment and you have managed to tune out the rest of the world, it's like you no longer hear the TV, you don't hear the traffic going by, you have placed yourself kind of in a little cocoon, if you will, where it's just you and God talking. That's what we're talking about here. So I don't want you to be triggered by that word and think that, she has eyes rolled up in her head or, there's smoke coming out of her ears, a Hollywood version of what that word means. So please don't be frightened by that. So I love that you were able to really spend that quiet time, Katrina, and be able to listen to what God has given to you. I think that for so many people, that's where they kind of fade off. They don't quite do exactly what they've been told to do, and they kind of interject themselves in there, and then they wonder why they have writer's block or they get a little stuck. It's because they're putting too much of themselves and not exactly what God has told them to do in the book. I love it. I love it. Well, Katrina Blecher, I have really enjoyed my time with you here today. Thank you so much for stopping by Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. But before I let you go, can you remind us one last time, please, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
Certainly. The book is The Angel's Guide to Happiness and Prosperity, and you can get it on Amazon or where books are sold. And you can reach me at katesholistichealing.com or at kateblecher.com. And we have a Facebook page. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you again for being a guest on the show today. And listeners, thank you for spending time with us here today as well. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to spend it with us, and I thank you for doing so. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.